Josh's channel. Shout out to him. All love. Give it a like. Subscribe to the man. And check out this video. Because some of it's in response to Joshua himself. Like we were having a conversation. I mean, I dropped a lot of comments and he was gracious enough to reply. So maybe it's not much of a conversation, more me just, screaming into the void as I like to do. But I would suggest watching that before listening to this, and of course, taking a peep into the comment section. Always click newest. Always click newest so you can see everything. God damn it. Trying to do this. I'm looking through a phone at another phone, so my finger's just not perfect. And always start at the bottom, generally, because that's where the oldest stuff is, as you can see. And then bring yourself on up. I'm not going to read all these. If you want to read them, by all means, do it. I'm just suggesting that you should, including all these other people. Why not? Always read the comments. You never know what's there. It could be something interesting, right? Then I would suggest I go look at my actual phone over here so I can do this shit properly. Go to my posts. Shimon internet. Oh, look at that. I'm live. Just went away. Son of a bitch. There it is. I'm silly. Come over here. Is it that one? First one? No. Come to this one. Right there. How do you end the suffering of all things without ending all things that suffer? You know what I'm saying? I'll scroll so y'all can pause it and read it if you want. You could also join us on Discord, either at Area Trance's Discord, Arene, or Chris Sideris's Discord. It's generally where I'm always fucking giving off my schizo rants. But you know what? I think I might read this one just to do it. Just to prove the point. And then we got the pictures, right? If you know what show that is, you know. If you don't, all hail Mark Anti-Natalist, or as I should say, Mark Mundus Spilly. Mark the World Destroyer, as he changed his name recently. That is his art. Of course, we got Ragnarok going on over here. You should know who they are. If you don't, hey, get familiar. And if you don't know who this man is and don't know what the Zero Mortals plan is, you should get familiar with that as well. I ain't gonna baby y'all. All right, let's read this. If it doesn't line up with the phone, my bad. I'm trying to read it from the other phone, so I don't gotta look through a screen to a screen. How do you end the suffering of all things without ending all things that suffer? You don't. Utopia for all things? Is that the answer? Because that's what a lot of people seem to think is the answer. How can a lion and zebra both have a utopia when one eats the other? How about Archons, or whatever you want to call it? It/them, and anything they feed on. Because again, I was talking to Josh prior to this, before I made this post, and so it's where my thoughts came from. So for those of you out there who don't believe in Archons of any kind, and think that this is just a 100% base reality, this is what, by all means, have the answer is still the same. So just ignore the whole part about Archons and understand the point being made. How about Archons, or whatever you want to call it/them, and anything they feed on? How about any predator and any prey you can imagine? See, just to, get past, because people love to get stuck on stupid shit because they just want to win an argument instead of paying attention to the point being made. Any predator and any prey you can imagine both suffer. They both eat, which means they both feel hunger. If they feel hunger, they also feel pain, pleasure, etc. Pain when the hunger goes on too long, pleasure when filling their bellies, which would indicate they're capable of feeling pain and pleasure in general. They are a being with needs and wants. Think of what the word being means. It means they be. It means they're in existence. They are being. Beings with needs and wants, no matter how conscious, subconscious, or unconscious those wants and needs may be. Therefore, they suffer samsara, maya, existence, etc., illusion, the matrix, the dookie boy realm, etc., just like everything else that's here. But even imagine things beyond here. Again, that's why I brought up the Archons, or whatever people want to call anything, gods, goddesses, demons, angels, whatever. Imagine those things. If they exist, they have wants and needs. If they didn't, they wouldn't do anything. Like, there'd be no need for their existence. There's no need to exist if you do absolutely nothing. But the predator's utopia would be the prey's hell, right? And the prey's utopia would certainly involve the extinction of the predator, right? Yet both creatures are required for their ecosystem not to collapse. Both zebras and lions are needed in the Serengeti because they perform a function within that ecosystem that allows it to continue operating. If you don't understand ecosystems and how they work, and you think that any individual being could just have a utopia, go study ecosystems. Not a single being in existence could have a perfect utopia for itself, because that wouldn't be a working ecosystem. Period. Like, oh, well, what about in heaven? Or in the astral? Or same shit, my guy. Like, study. Study more. Seriously. So realistically, is it even possible to create a utopia for all things? No, obviously not. You can never even create a perfect utopia for one thing, let alone everything everywhere. There will either be winners and losers who never create a perfect suffering-free utopia for even just themselves, or everything that suffers has to go. Because as long as something exists, suffering will exist, because existence is suffering. From the moment you're born, you have hunger and all, like, period. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. If it exists, it suffers in some form or fashion. So there's only ever been one answer. No matter how daunting it is, nor how impossible you may think it is, it's still the only real solution to the problem of ending all suffering. Not lessening, ending. For the idiots in the back. Because every time you talk about ending suffering, some dumbass always wants to go, well, I want to lessen it as much. That's not the question. The question is, you can ask that question, how to lessen suffering as much as possible. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I will address that in this live stream as well. But the point of this is mainly how to end all suffering, so we can get past the bullshit that people like to feed themselves, because everyone wants to be some willy foo-foo, riff-raff-ass, fluffy bunny, like on some hippy-dippy, hug every tree bullshit. That's not realistic. You're never going to end suffering that way, period. Period. It's just the truth. Even if you just want to lessen suffering, you will still have to cause a whole lot of suffering in the process of lessening the suffering you choose to lessen. Meaning, you will have to choose to cause suffering in order to lessen suffering. For example, zebras causing lions to starve in order to stay alive themselves causes those lions to suffer while lessening their own suffering and the suffering of their kind. Does that make it wrong? Should the zebras just feed themselves to the lions? Absolutely not. Fuck those lions. Every time a lion hunts down a zebra in order to keep itself alive and its pride and its children and whatnot, it causes the zebra to suffer, while lessening its own suffering and the suffering of its lion pride, because they get to eat. Does that make it wrong? Should the lion simply starve to death and not feed on the zebra? Absolutely not. Fuck those zebras. It's a lion. It should do exactly what the fuck it does. Now think about Archons, this realm, the Matrix, nature, the mind virus, Tico, or whatever you want to call them slash it. Fallen angels, other humans, the outsiders, demons, angels, gods, greys, reptilians, mantids, Anunnaki, devils, algorithms, AI, AIX, the LCS, Tartarus, Hell, Dookie Boy Realm, etc. Whatever you want to say the problem is, whatever you want to call this reality and those who are currently in control of it, preying upon you in whatever form or fashion you hypothesize, even if you assume this is base reality, this is real, and this is all that there is. You too. Like, always trying to separate yourselves from other people because they call it 1,000 different things. This is for all of you. However you view this reality. Think about that. Right? Whatever your hypothesis is, right? Then think about humans and any other prey, the archons in quotations, meaning whatever you want to fill in that blank with, any other prey the archons are feeding on, as well as everything humans and the other prey feed on themselves. Think of all the suffering caused by archons of any kind, humans of any kind, archon prey of any kind, and even the suffering caused by their prey items, as their prey eats other prey, including plant life, which also eats, sometimes even eating other plant life or even animals. Shit, plants even eat light for crying out loud, slowly devouring all light in the cosmos, which means they're eating creation itself. Like, no matter what beings you choose to lessen the suffering for, you will only be increasing the suffering. You will only be increasing the suffering of whatever those same exact beings prey upon. You will only be increasing the suffering of whatever they directly or indirectly cause to suffer. I should have said this. You will also be increasing the suffering of whatever preys upon them. Because if you are going to lessen their suffering, like if you lessen the suffering of zebras, you're gonna have to stop lions from eating them, which means you're gonna increase the suffering of lions. Whatever you choose to lessen the suffering of, anything that they prey upon and anything that preys upon them will have an increased level of suffering. These are facts. You can't ignore it. Only increase the suffering of whatever they directly and indirectly cause to suffer. So you won't actually be lessening any suffering at all. You will be simply choosing that which suffers more and that which suffers less based on your will, based on your thought processes, your hypothesis, your choice on what you think should or shouldn't suffer. You will not end suffering at all. Most likely, you won't even lessen it. Most likely, you'll just end up causing more, being selfish, only thinking about your suffering and the suffering of those you consider to be your kind. Ugh. Anyone or anything that feeds on your kind, you will absolutely cause to suffer. And anything else that suffers directly or indirectly based upon your actions will have its suffering increased as well. Everything eats and causes suffering in one way or another, including you, no matter how hard you try not to, because existence is suffering. Grow up, think bigger, stop running from obvious truths. There's only ever been one solution to legitimately end all suffering. And these pictures are an example. If you've ever seen the show Spartacus, you know that's Batiotus and his wife. I always forget her fucking name. But they were slave owners, and those people in there with their swords in the air were their slaves, gladiator slaves. In order for these people to increase their own pleasure and decrease their own suffering, they enslaved these people to fight on their behalf as gladiators and make them money and societal status and political status and et cetera, et cetera. You know, all the shit that they get from owning the best gladiators. So, in order for these people, Spartacus and his people, the slaves, to lessen their own suffering, they had to increase the suffering of these people and eventually even kill them in order to free themselves, as you see here, holding their swords in the air. And even after freeing themselves, they still had to fight Rome, because Rome wanted to once again increase their suffering by re enslaving them. So they had to increase the suffering of Rome by killing Roman soldiers. Like, this is how reality works. Realistically, if you want to end all suffering, you have to end all things, because there will always be one thing's utopia, will always be a hell realm to another thing. A lion's utopia will always be a hell to zebras. Zebra's utopia will always be a hell to lions, or better yet, lions simply wouldn't exist in their utopia. Like, so you'd either have to increase the suffering of lions or get rid of them altogether. Just like these people had to get rid of these people in order to be as free as they possibly could while still fighting Rome in a war for their continued freedom that they eventually died in anyway. Mark Anti-natalist, aka Mark Moonspilly, if that's how you say it properly. It's like Germanic, Latin, slash Norwegian, I don't know. But it basically means Mark the World Destroyer, so maybe I should just say that. Drew this himself, and that is a picture of him and myself. Obviously, we don't look legitimately like this, but it's a picture of us standing on a hillside while he is waving his hand, causing volcanic explosions, earthquakes, meteors to destroy everything. because that's the only way you end all suffering. You must end all things that suffer. And this is an example of individuals in mythology who, in order to be free themselves, even if it means being free in death, had to overthrow the gods. Ragnarok. Hell, or as people might know her today, thanks to Marvel, Hela. I actually like the name Hela myself. Fenrir, or Fenris, however you want to say it. Jormungandr, the world serpent. Ragnarok. Don't know what that is? Look it up. And here we have Goku Black, who was really Zamasu in disguise as Goku Black. But anyway, the originator of the Zero Mortals plan, because he looked around at the multiverse, saw that mortals, not only were mortals trashies, but all they do is suffer in their existence. Their existence is filthy, it's trash. There should be nothing that exists. He was going to kill everything but the gods, because the gods didn't suffer. The gods were like, they kind of lived in their own utopia in their world, even though they technically do have suffer, but in comparison to the mortals, the gods are living in utopia. So he didn't look at the gods and see the same thing as he did when he saw the mortals. He said, those mortals are living in squalor. They're always doing violence to each other. Like, why do they exist? Like, there's no point in them existing. Just to suffer? And then, of course, his teacher told him, well, suffering is how they grow. And he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to erase all of them. Good on him. Right? So that's that, all right? Come on. So check that out. And then what was the other thing here that we had here? Is that it right there? Is that the, yep, that's it right there. Nature. Look at this shit. I probably won't be able to zoom in. Ticks all in its eyes and shit. Like, holy fuck, bro. That's nature. But anyway, there was this, right? Because this is something I've really had to harp on over the last few weeks. Humans. You all love to overcomplicate things in order to make yourself seem like a better person than you actually are. And the idea of better is usually based upon the judgment of someone or something you wouldn't even like or agree with. It's okay to be exactly who and what you are. No need to run from it. Fuck what anyone or anything else has to think or say about it. Stop running from who and what you are. And I put these pictures because this character, Ultra Vegito, or God Killer Vegito, who was murdering gods and shit, was having a crisis of personality. I don't know what the fuck you would call it. But he was trying to think he was kind of gooder than he was. So he's sitting here saying, I'm not evil, I'm not bad, even though he murdered mad fucking people, killed like untold amount of gods and angels and da 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 da, blah blah blah, right? I'm not the evil one here. I am the savior of the entire multiverse. I am the liberator. Come back to the devil, God killer. Like, you know who and what you are. You're killing gods. You're a killer. Whether you think it's a good reason or a bad reason doesn't matter. That's what you are. Stop acting like you doing this just to free the multiverse when you know you doing this to get revenge. Like, because he was. He was pissed. He wanted to kill the gods for what they did to his people, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with revenge. But a lot of people try to fancy things up and make things sound better than what they are. Or, and again, shout out to Josh, love the guy. But there was a comment where he said in his video, you know, I am not an anti-natalist, or I'm paraphrasing, so go watch the video for yourself, hear how he actually said it, because I could be saying it very wrong right now, but get the point of what I'm trying to say. He basically said, though I agree with the philosophy of anti-natalism, I am not an anti-natalist. And I had to say, bro, that's what an anti-natalist is. When you agree with a philosophy, you are that thing. Ist, I-S-T, at the end of the word, the suffix at the end of the word, say communist, is just denoting that the person is in agreement with that thing. So if you agree with, say, anarchy, you are an anarchist. If you agree with capitalism, you are a capitalist. Period. If you agree with nationalism, you are a nationalist. That's what the IST at the end of the word stands for. So if you agree with anti-natalism, you are an anti-natalist. Don't run away from the word because somebody blew up an IVF building. Like, Even if you run away from the word, you're still that word. By definition, you're still that thing because you agree with it. Just because an antinatalist or pro-mortalist blew up a building and now people are all running scared, don't want the FBI coming calling. If you agree with pro-mortalism or antinatalism, you're still an antinatalist and pro-mortalist, whether you want to call yourself that or not. Period. So that's why I made this post about humans always trying to overcomplicate things in order to make themselves seem like, well, don't connect me with that thing over there. But you are that thing over there, whether you want to fucking admit it to yourself or not. That's just reality, right? So peep those, right? And I see you down there, Persephone. I'm gonna read your comments in a moment. I just want to get to a certain point first, and then I'll check your comments. I'll see what you said. Memes. Where should I come in here? Oh yeah, I might as well, since I was responding to something Josh said in here too, right? Because I shared some of the comments and stuff from his video, in our Discord. For anybody who wants to come up in here, you can see the things we're talking about and whatnot. Some of the things that he was talking about need to become the bug that poisons any false god that touches it. I agree. And Josh said, I hear you. Thanks for putting such thoughtful responses. I'll chew on some of those thoughts. Good man, because I can definitely be fucking annoying. So I love Josh for dealing with me at all, because I'm definitely an annoyance. So I said to him, no matter what, no matter how harsh it sounds, well, first, what did I fallen angels. Okay, so that was the thing that I just read from start to finish, right? But I said, no matter how harsh it sounds, I got to read it off the other screen because this is retarded looking through a phone to a phone. No matter how harsh it sounds, this is the logical truth of existence itself. There is no perfection anywhere. Imperfection cannot lead to nor contain perfection, nor vice versa. Therefore, since this imperfect reality exists, all of reality is imperfect, meaning all things within reality are imbalanced and always trying to find equilibrium. That's what eating is. That's why energy exchange occurs. All of existence is an exchange of energy, period. Period. In order to last as long as possible and continue their line of data, information, genetics, etc., whatever you want to call the actual information underlying the organisms breeding, because that's what breeding is for, it's to continue those lines of data uninterrupted, preferably for eternity, which causes suffering to exist for as long as there is something to exist. There will always be wants and needs by any and all beings in existence. It simply is what it is. Whether we like it or not, there's no logical argument that existence could ever cease to require suffering. It's a necessity for existence. If there is no suffering, nothing would do anything. Because if there's no suffering, there's no pleasure either. That's one spectrum. People think that pain and pleasure are two polar opposites. I'm like, they're polar opposites on the same spectrum. Feeling is feeling. You can feel pleasure, you can feel pain, or you can feel something that's more in the middle, where it's not really pleasurable nor painful, it just is. Like if I just touched your arm and you didn't get pleasure from it nor pain from it, I'm just touching your arm, that's the middle of the spectrum. You get what I'm saying? The other end, one end of the spectrum would be pain, the other end of the spectrum would be pleasure. And for some people, it's more like a circle. The pleasure and the pain meet in the middle, and some people like pain as pleasure, but they're rare. They're not the average being. If you go to the average animal in existence, not just humans, because that's really a human kink. I've never seen an animal, not to say it has never existed, I can't prove it, but I've never seen an animal in nature that enjoyed pleasure. I mean, enjoyed pain as pleasure. Like, I don't think there's a lion or a deer or a fucking fox or a snake out there that's like, I like pain. It feels so good. Like, that's a human thing because we're consciously aware enough to even contemplate such thing. It's something higher beings tend to fall into with their kinks, not lesser beings. It simply is what it is. whether we like it or not. There's no logical argument that existence could ever cease to require suffering. It's a necessity for existence to create action that leads to ecosystems, which creates more life and mutation on any and every level of reality. I don't care if you're talking about gods, archons, demons, devils, angels, or if you're just talking about right here, right now on planet Earth, or if you're talking about aliens anywhere else in the cosmos. Like, it doesn't matter. Same shit. Even the archons require sustenance. So does your spirit, soul, consciousness, etc. This realm is not the only place where things eat. That happens everywhere. Even the archons have predators. Mind you, I'm talking to Josh mostly here, and Josh talks about the archons. And he talks about getting out of here and fighting the archons, right? So if you get out, if the only way to fight them personally is to get out of here, whether he's talking about this realm or the matrix as a whole, that would mean outside of this realm or the matrix as a whole, things still eat. Things still have pleasure. Things still have pain. Things still cause other things to suffer. If those archons are outside of this reality, causing us to suffer in this reality, they have the concept of suffering. Do you get what I'm saying? So even there, still the same. As I said, that happens everywhere. Even the archons have predators. Life equals suffering. It literally has to. Therefore, no life equals no suffering. L equals S, and L equals NS. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 1 minus 1 equals 0. Every single time. The equations are very simple. If there is life, there will be suffering. Period. That's just a fact. Now, if you want, you can choose to lessen your suffering or the suffering of other beings that you care about. But again, by doing that, you are going to increase the suffering of other beings that you and the beings you care about indirectly or directly cause to suffer, either because they prey upon you or you prey upon them, or your existence simply interferes with theirs. You know, it's like if you go build a house, they have to put the base of the house in. Why can I not think of what that shit is called? The base of the house. You know what I'm talking about. The foundation. There we go. So what do they have to do? Dig up the ground, destroy ant colonies and shit. Like, but they don't give a fuck about the ant colonies. They care about the humans that are going to move into the house. They care about the money they're going to make selling the house, etc. Like, whatever the fuck it may be, whoever's building the house doesn't give a fuck about the things they're displacing and causing to suffer on any level to get their house. They want the house there, so they're putting it there. You know, that's without hunting or praying or doing any of that. Like, they're not trying to eat the ants, or they're just destroying them in order to build something on top of where they were. They're cutting down the trees in that area of the forest to build the house there. So whatever lived in those trees, like, do you understand? And those trees themselves no longer alive. Like, so just by existing, you cause suffering, whether you want to or not. Period. So if you are going to lessen the suffering of yourself or anyone or anything you personally care about, you will, I guarantee it, you will be increasing the suffering of someone or something else somewhere. Like, and that's why I showed these pictures like that, because in order for them to get free and for them to lessen their own suffering, I don't know why the fucking thing is going so goddamn slow or not loading at all. It only wants to do this because it's being retarded while I'm streaming. This is what they had to do and who they had to be in order to lessen their own suffering. I love the way she looks at him like that. I fucking love the way she looks at him in that moment. As boys, the goons. See all the blood they're covered in? You know how much suffering they had to cause to free themselves so they could lessen their own suffering? Peep the mythos. Fuck what the show is trying to show you. I mean, see that too. Always want to see their propaganda and everything else so you understand who wrote the show, what they're trying to show you, etc. But always see what they're not purposely showing you either, or what they are purposely showing you so they can kill it later. Because they will do that. They'll show you something that is absolutely correct, and they'll show it to you in that manner and then kill it later in the show or something, you know, kill the character or whatever the fuck. But still understand the mythos, still peep the mythos on display. The only way for them to get free was for them to cause harm and suffering to those who were causing it to themselves. Period. These are facts. That's reality. If you're on a slave plantation and you lead a slave rebellion, you're going to harm the slave master and those who work for the slave master. You're even going to have to kill other slaves who would snitch on you, tell on you, and fight on behalf of the master. All right, that's where I was trying to get to, but let's see if there's anything beneath that for any reason it's worth showing before we get into those recordings. And of course, all those things that I showed you on YouTube, please go into the comments section and check those out, because that's usually where the best shit is. A lot of times the comments are better than the videos. I'm just saying. Yeah, we'll get back up here, but before I click on these, let me answer Persephone here, since she has left like 6 or 7 comments. So, would suddenly have a pile of worthless money. They would then be on the outside and guaranteed they come crawling, wanting a place in the system they've done everything they could prevent and deny. I think I understand what you're trying to say. Like, if people who were, I don't know, whining and complaining about reality suddenly got a giant pile of money, they would suddenly no longer hate that. I agree. I agree. I think that most people, because they're only whining and complaining about their personal life, my life sucks so bad, so I'm upset. But if their life got any better, they wouldn't care about life in general. Me, I don't cry because my life is so bad. It's not. I was born in America in 1988. Are you joking? Like, I have one of the best lives that this world has ever produced, ever. See, I can actually look throughout history and understand that and go, even though the world still sucks and I've been through quite a few things, in comparison to the vast majority of humans that have ever existed, exist right now, and may ever exist in the future, I'm probably in the top 5 percentile of lives that have ever happened. Like, so I'm not complaining for me. Personally, yeah, I don't like being a human because I feel like a god and I feel trapped in this fucking pathetic body. No matter how good it is, I'm a 6 foot black man, 200 pounds, naturally good shape. Like, even though I eat and don't give a fuck about working out or not, I will always be in shape where I can get into a fight and I think that I can beat damn near anyone outside of special people. Like, I'm not beating up Brock Lesnar or Bobby Lashley. I'm not gonna take down a fucking, so like some fucking UFC champ. But your average man and outside, anywhere on planet Earth, I think I could beat the average man of that country. I don't give a fuck what country it is. I think if you are beneath the 90th percentile of any country on Earth, I could probably beat the fuck out of you. If you're above that, it becomes a challenge. If you're above the 95th percentile, you should probably beat me. And if you are like in the top 1%, if you, yeah, you're probably gonna wash me, bro. Like, you're one of the best fighters in the world, which means you're probably one of the best fighters to ever exist, because mixed martial arts and all that shit is a nowadays thing. But you get the point. I'm not I'm not complaining because my life sucks so bad. Ooh. No, I can actually understand the philosophy of looking out at the cosmos, looking at all of existence and going, yeah, life is suffering. That's crazy. Just look at the fucking ants outside. Look at the birds. Look at the wolves. Everything is hungry. Everything is trying to eat, fuck, sleep, shit, piss, get some water to drink, or whatever the fuck it is their equivalent is. If you want to talk aliens on some alien shit, you want to talk archons and loosh and like whatever the gods needing worship, whatever the fuck you want to talk about. There's something they want and slash or need in order to exist. There's a reason for their existence, which is suffering in general, period. So a lot of these people just crying about their personal life, yeah, you gave them $1 million tomorrow, suddenly they wouldn't be crying. They'd love life. Life is good. YOLO. Looking asses. I agree with that. I do kind of agree that the struggles people experience does build character, but it's not essential. But it is. And here's why it is. There's no two ways around it. See, essential doesn't necessarily mean it's something you like or that you want to happen. Essential means it is going to happen. It has to happen. If you live as a a human being, you have to breathe. You have to eat, drink, poop, pee, etc., because you're a human being, which means things must be hunted and killed and da da da. Survival is a necessity for all living things. The easier it is for you to survive, the less trauma you're generally going to have, unless you have external circumstances like, I don't know, a father who beats you, a mother who berates you, an uncle who rapes you. Like, You might have great survival, you might even be rich, and you're going to have a wonderful life, but this thing, and even the rich always have some sort of issue. Like, even those who have survival down to a fucking T will still have some sort of issue in life. Suffering is guaranteed, no matter who or what you are. Period. Even the richest, most powerful humans will have some form of suffering in their existence at some point. It might not be comparable to, say, some third world kid in fucking the Congo digging up minerals for our cell phones at fucking 3 years old, you know? But they're going to have some type of suffering. Suffering is essential for reality. It's what causes things to do things. If you never got hungry, you'd seek no food. Like, if you never had these feelings, you would never do anything because there'd be nothing to do. And you can't have pleasure without pain because they're on the same spectrum. They are the same thing. Your nervous system is what feels. Pleasure and pain is the feeling that it feels. And it's a spectrum between pleasure and pain. The further it goes into the pleasure, the more pleasurable it is. The further it goes into the pain, the more painful it is. But it's one thing. It's feeling, period. Emotion is one thing. It's a frequency of feeling. Depending on what frequency you have, that's where you are on the spectrum, just like a light. Light is one thing, but it's a spectrum. That's why they have different frequencies of light, different visible colors in the visible light spectrum. The electromagnetic frequency is one thing. It's all electromagnetism, but different frequencies of it, which produces different rays, X-rays, gamma rays, etc. Reality is spectrums. You can't have pleasure without pain. It's literally impossible, and no one could ever explain. See, people can claim it. Well, there shouldn't be pain, there should just be pleasure. Make that make actual scientific sense with any body, including a spirit, a soul. Because if the spirit can feel pleasure, it has a mechanism for feeling. So how could it feel pleasure and yet not be capable of feeling pain when it has a mechanism for feeling in general? Pleasure and pain are just the spectrum of feeling. And what you're feeling in that given moment is either pleasure, pain, or both if you're that kind of freak. No matter what kind of life form you are. Period. So it is a necessity. It is essential to existence itself. That's why I say existence is suffering, because if you exist, you feel. And if you feel, there will be pleasure and there will be pain. The only question is how much pleasure versus how much pain you will feel during your existence, and what types and what levels, the sources of it, etc. You know, the people who have all the money and power are still unhappy and still don't have peace, love, community. Exactly. Exactly. Struggles doesn't build character directly. It is the person or entity personality that can choose, let it break them, or grow from it. Well, building character doesn't necessarily mean. See, people always use that as it means it makes you like a better or stronger person. No, no, no. Think of what a character is. Your character is just who and what you are. Pain, building character, just means it manipulates who and what you are. It doesn't necessarily make you a better person or a stronger person. It can make you a worse person and a weaker person, but that is your character. I don't like the way people use terminology. They use phrases wrong. It builds character. It does, but their understanding of the phrase is incorrect. Building character is no different than building an avatar in a video. Like, it's just something that affects the character of the individual. It doesn't make them better or worse. It could be either or. But people always take that statement to mean it makes them better in some form or fashion. No, it can make you worse. It can make you worse in a whole bunch of ways. It can make you worse in every way imaginable. It's still building your character. Your character is just worse now. People really need to understand what character means. Not a modern connotation, just the word itself. Not the way people use it, but what it actually is. What is a character? What is character? It's simply the way you are. Your thought processes, the way you walk, talk, and act. One person could get raped, and it could build their character in a positive fashion, meaning they're stronger, they're less fearful, they're ready to fight to defend themselves, etc., etc., etc. It made them harder. Or somebody else could become weaker, more scared, more afraid. Every sound is bad now because they're worried they're going to come rape them. When somebody seems to impose their will on them, they just allow it to happen because they just want to avoid being hurt. Do you get what I'm saying? Or anywhere in between. Both of those people had their character built by rape. Persephone, and that was Almighty Cookie. Shout out to you, Almighty Cookie. Persephone again. A utopia would provide for the unmet needs of everyone that the current system we live in doesn't. Exactly, and that's not possible. So I want, and here's the thing: people don't like to admit who is everyone, because there's rapists out there, there's psychopaths, there's people who want to dominate others. You're gonna meet their needs. Do you see what I'm saying? One person's utopia is another person's hell. If there's a pedophile out there, their utopia is to have a bunch of children running around them naked, that they can have their way with at any given moment. Let alone if they're a rapey kind, like they want to be forceful. They don't want you to want it. They want you to fight. They want you to run. They enjoy the hunt. They like chasing you down and forcing it on you. A utopia for all things would include them, because they are part of all things. A utopia for everyone would include them, because they are part of everyone. Which is why you cannot have a utopia for everyone, let alone all things, because one man's utopia or one thing's utopia will always be a hell for someone or something else. Period. That's a fact no one has ever been able to overcome, which is why there's never been a utopia, isn't now, and never will be. Utopia is impossible, even for one species, let alone all species on the planet, let alone the cosmos, let alone all existence everywhere. It's not possible. And so when people say, "Oh, we must end all suffering, but we need to do it without harming anything," then you're never going to end all suffering. Because to end all suffering, you must end all things that suffer, because there's no way to end all suffering for all things that suffer without ending them. Like, as long as they exist, suffering will exist. Period. One thing's utopia is another thing's dystopia. Period. The tech elites love the idea of a artificial intelligence Jupiter brain consuming all of us and keeping us in existence forever. I don't. That's my version of hell. And we might already be in that hell. I can't prove it either way, but we could be. Yeah, in general, we have Persephone again. Yeah, in general, we have this idea that pressure makes diamonds, struggle fosters growth, adversity builds character. But yeah, people respond differently to the same conditions, stimuli, or factors. Exactly. So in general, we have this idea that pressure makes diamonds. It does, but it'll also break things. It's still building the character of the thing, either into a diamond or into something that's broken. Struggle fosters growth, adversity builds character. It does. But what are you growing into? What kind of character are you gaining? People hear these words and they assume it means something positive. It absolutely doesn't have to. People respond differently to the same conditions, stimuli, or factors. Exactly, but they all respond. All of their characters are being built. They're all growing in some form or fashion. Might not be the best type of growth or the best type of character production, but it is what it is. Almighty Cookie. Yep. Even with diamonds with enough pressure, it can shatter. So it's a lose-lose battle with suffering. Yes, but then there's somebody else who would argue pressure is what built them and it made them great and yada yada blah blah blah. Pressure can create a diamond, but it can also bust pipes. Pressure is simply pressure. The response to the pressure is based on the individual feeling the pressure, and it can go either way. Building character doesn't always mean a good thing. It could be a bad thing. What is this live about? Well, we're 44 minutes in, so I would suggest just starting at the beginning, because I'm not going to re-explain that whole thing. You start over at the beginning, you'll absolutely know Mr. Julian Moreau, I think it is. Shout out to you. Because right now we are at the point of the recordings. So, keep in mind, I'm talking to mostly to Josh in this, at this point in time. we're having this conversation, but it is for anyone and everyone who understands what the conversation's about and understands the context the conversation is happening within, which is why I just showed you 40 minutes of shit prior to getting to this point. So, here we go. Or actually, should I do it over here? Oh yeah, first and foremost, if y'all want to join our cult, people see that and get scared. It's a joke. We don't worship fucking Aaron A. Like, it's a joke. Calm down. Or the Christopher Sideris server, please come join us. Tell us how you really feel. Yeah. Just be you, the true you. Stop running from who and what you are. Let's get to the recording up here. Heard everything you said here. Well, I appreciate you, Infinite Corridors. Now, should I do that in there? So I can go, yeah, I'm gonna do that in there. Nah, I'm gonna do it right here, fuck it. Fuck it. Alright, let's do this. This is why I'm always telling folks to peep the mythos. It really is this simple. There we go. This is why I'm always telling folks to peep the mythos. It really is this simple. Think of it this way. Spartacus was a Roman slave, forced to fight in the gladiator games. His master, who was weaker and less powerful than him, had more societal and economic power than him. He had more systematic and systemic power than him. Therefore, he was able to use this systemic and systematic economic and monetary power external to himself, in order to find men who had actual physical power enough to, because, soldiers and shit like that who took Spartacus captive, to sell him Spartacus, who's more powerful than himself, so he could use Spartacus in the games to gain even more monetary. You know what? I'm about to start that over because I had to move it. But if y'all can't hear it, let me know. If you can hear it, there's no need to say anything. But if you can't hear it, let me know. This is why I'm always telling folks to peep the mythos. It really is this simple. Think of it this way. Spartacus was a Roman slave, forced to fight in the gladiator games. His master, who was weaker and less powerful than him, had more societal and economic power than him. He had more systematic and systemic power than him. Therefore, he was able to use this systemic and systematic economic and monetary power external to himself, in order to find men who had actual physical power enough to, because, soldiers and shit like that who took Spartacus captive, to sell him Spartacus, who's more powerful than himself, so he could use Spartacus in the games to gain even more monetary and societal power. In order for him to have less suffering and more pleasure, he caused the suffering of Spartacus, including eventually killing his wife, in order to give him nothing to live for. So the only thing he would have to live for from that day forward is his name as a gladiator. He increased Spartacus's suffering in order to lessen his own suffering. Now Spartacus, being a better person than his slave master Batiatus, wanted to get free. He would never do something like that to gain more pleasure. Then again, he was a warrior. But as a slave, in order to free himself from slavery, in order to lessen his suffering as well as the suffering of the other slaves, what do they have to do? Increase the suffering of Batiatus, his wife, and all their men, by battling them and eventually even killing them. In order to free themselves, they had to kill their masters. Batiatus chose to increase the suffering of another being in order to lessen the suffering of his own and his own family. So in response, Spartacus chose to increase the suffering of Batiatus and his family by killing them. He ended their earthly suffering in the end, but they definitely didn't have fun while dying. So he had to increase their suffering, though it was temporary, before ending their suffering completely by killing them. See, even by killing them, he ends their suffering, at least If we want to go that route, I could make 1,000 arguments about reincarnation and all sorts of shit, but if this is the death realm and that's the life realm, I'm just saying, in order to get there, you gotta die. So he chose to increase their suffering for a temporary amount of time in order to lessen his suffering and the suffering of the other slaves, to free themselves. And even after that, Rome chose, fuck that, we're going to re-enslave them because we can't just have a slave revolt. So in order for the Romans, the so-called free Romans, who had the money to own slaves and things like this, in order to lessen their own suffering, they chose to increase the suffering on Spartacus and the slaves who escaped by re-enslaving them. So Spartacus, in order to lessen the suffering of him and his own people and the slaves, chose to increase the suffering of Rome by killing their soldiers. No matter what you want to do, you're going to be increasing suffering in order to lessen your own suffering or the suffering of those you care about, period. Whether it's growing food or hunting food or going to the store and buying food that was factory farmed, whether it's fighting a slave revolt against humans here, a government here, fighting natalists here, or whether it's fighting Archons in another realm. It's all the same shit. You're picking and choosing which suffering you seek to increase in order to lessen your own or to lessen those of your people. If you want to end this matrix, you'll be harming the Archons. If you want to escape this matrix, you'll be harming them indirectly. If you somehow escape and actually get away, good luck with that. But if you just run away really fast and they never catch you, you just took food out of their mouths. Now, does that mean you shouldn't? Of course you should. You're the zebra, they're the lion. You should run faster than them, kick them in the face, break their jaw if you need to. Don't let them eat you. You get what I'm saying? Like, you should increase their suffering in order to lessen yours and those of your people, because they are against you and yours. Period. Like, they're trying to eat you in one form or fashion. I'm just using that as an example. We can make 1,000 arguments for what this place actually is, who's actually running it, how they're actually using it against, etc. Because I'm just using the eating as an obvious, example and metaphor. But if Spartacus said, "Oh, I don't want to harm anyone," guess what? They'd have died as slaves. Yeah, they still ended up. Oh, that was the other thing. Even though they chose to lessen their suffering by fighting back against Rome, they still ended up dying in the end. They still ended up dying, even after they fought. Peep the mythos. What is the lesson? Do you really want to get free? Do you really want to shut down the matrix, even from the outside? Because guess what? They're not just going to let you. They're going to fight you with everything they have. Everything. They would never just... If you escape a prison, right now, as a human on planet Earth, if you escape a prison and then try to blow that prison up, do they just let you? No. First off, they're hunting you the moment you leave the prison. The alarms go off, and the alarms are ringing, and the sounds are blowing. You got the police cars going, choppers looking for you, spotlights, snipers, people with dogs. Don't you think the Archons are retarded? It's going to be the same exact thing. So even if you could escape, which I promise, escape, it's a child's dream. It's no different than hoping for well, when I die, I'm just not coming back, period. You better be fucking ready to do what you need to do then. You're going to have to cause harm and suffering, I guarantee it. Period. Just leaving and running away and getting away is still causing suffering indirectly in some form or fashion in existence. Let alone if you actually have to fight through your jailers. Let alone if you turn around and blow up the prison to free the rest of us. You're going to have to fight through them to get out. Then you have to fight just to stay alive and not be recaptured. Then you're going to have to fight through the process of gaining whatever materials and allies you need to come back to the prison to blow it up from the outside in whatever form or fashion you're going to, kick the door open in whatever way you're going to do. You're going to have to commit suffering to do this. And you're going to have to suffer to do this. Because it's not going to just be a cakewalk. And then when we get out, what do you think we're going to do to them? Suffering. So no matter what level of reality you choose to do it on, it's not more morally, I'm morally higher because I'll only do it to the Archons. I'll never do it to another human. Bro, those humans are Archons. Period. It's just a title. It's not a species. It's anyone who is operating in that fashion is following that agenda, even if they're doing it by accident or indirectly. If they are empowering your enemy, directly or indirectly, these people are doing it directly, then they are your enemy, even if they don't know it. Just like I said about the zombies. If you are trying to stop the zombie virus from killing the whole species, every zombie's an enemy, even if it's not their fault. You must double tap them, period. That's just a fact. Especially if the zombie virus is sentient, sapient, conscious, and attempting to spread itself on purpose, and using them as its slaves to do so. Think about it. Matrix, mind virus, Watiko, AI, algorithm, Archon, etc. Same shit. Sentient, sapient, and conscious, fully aware of what they, them, or it is doing, and using these beings in this reality to do it. And it's directly at war against you, especially if it's a false flag. Because if it's a false flag, that would mean that they picked you, your thought processes, your beliefs, the things you preach about and talk about, and they targeted you by using that being, whether he was real or not, whether he got some help from the feds or whatever the fuck it was. If it's a false flag of any kind, they chose what they were going to attack, and it's you. You're their enemy. So anything that feeds them is a supply line you should cut off. And since they have minions here, human Archons, FBI, feds, government, the people who would do the false flag in order to target you, because you're talking about what this reality is and what shouldn't be brought into it and what it's being used for and who's running it against us, etc., etc. Those humans themselves are part of that agenda. Some knowingly, some unknowingly. Some are part of it just based on programming, like a zombie. Others are part of it because they are occultist and they understand. Others are part of it because they're religious and they worship the God of this reality. Therefore, they worship the reality itself because it's their gods. This is how it's supposed to be, even if it's imperfect, because Eve bit the apple, depending on whatever religious belief we talk about. Well, Eve bit the apple. If she didn't bite the apple, this place would be perfect. Even if that's the case, if their God is still all-powerful, all-knowing, etc., etc., it's all God's plan. And in the end, Revelations, it's all going to go back to the way God wanted it to be anyway, according to themselves. So they worship this realm in that God. They're your enemy. It doesn't matter how nice of a person you are. If you want to be free, ever, on any level of reality, you better be willing to directly deal with your enemy, or you never will be. Because even if you are willing to directly deal with your enemy on any level of reality, like Spartacus was willing to do here as a human, you could still end up losing like Spartacus did. Not even being willing to do what Spartacus did is a guaranteed loss. You'll be a slave forever. Because there's nothing stopping them from maintaining this forever if you won't do it. Especially since you're the one they're targeting with the false flag. Do you get what it's like? That's how existence works. If you want to lessen your suffering and the suffering of me and others and those like you, you're going to have to increase the suffering of that which is doing this to us. And on any level of reality you seek to lessen that suffering, you're going to have to cause suffering on that level of reality. So if the suffering is here right now as humans, and you want to lessen that suffering, for those of us who are here, you're going to have to increase suffering, if not completely kill or contain those that are also here on this level of reality, causing that suffering, as well as anyone beyond this level of reality that is causing that suffering. Period. And if this realm is a battery pack to those beyond this realm, empowering them, you would want, and you're literally in the battery pack. You should want to drain as much juice from that pack from the inside out as possible, as fast as possible, to take as much energy from them as possible, to depower them as much as possible. So anyone who's already there fighting them, let alone when you get there or anyone else gets there later, they are less powerful and more easy to deal with, rather than you let them be as powerful as possible because you wouldn't do anything about the energy they're siphoning from here while you were here. We can't be soft about this, because that's the truth. We're just being soft when we say, well, I would never harm anyone. Then you would never harm an Archon either. Because if you're not willing to harm people here, you're not willing to harm Archons. Because when you get there, they're going to drastically overpower you. Laughingly so. Laughingly, because they are feeding on everyone else that's here. Do you think that you are personally more powerful than all beings in this existence? Is there any singular conscious being that you would think who may be consciously more powerful than you? Because if they're still here, just that one being, while you're out there trying to fight the Archons who are feeding on just that one being, they're already being empowered by that one being, let alone all other beings in this entire reality. Do you get what I'm saying, bro? This is 1 + 1 = 2. If they feed on this place, granting them power, and this place still exists when you go to fight them, good luck. Good luck just getting out of this place. Not the realm, the entire matrix. This is just one realm. This matrix is not one realm. I hate to tell people that. This is why I tell folks they really got to get into the astral, because it's blatant as fuck. This is not one realm. There's a whole section of the astral trapped in this bitch. Like, a whole fucking chunk. And this is just one realm. And it's just one of their realms, because they have other realms in here. They even have realms that work for them based upon the human mind, creating false things that shouldn't even exist, that have their own realms, that are also feeding on this place. It's wild. Religion's a crazy motherfucking thing. So really think about it. If you, slave, on the slave plantation, want to stop being a slave, let alone end slavery, you're going to have to kill the slave masters and any system that maintains that slavery. Or else there will always be slavery. Until the system of slavery is destroyed, the slavery will continue. Even if you, as an individual being, somehow escape the slave plantation, run into the wilderness, and are never ever found, everyone else who didn't escape is still going through that slavery. It's still ongoing. And who knows, maybe they don't find you for a day, a week, a month, a year, but maybe 10 years down the line, they get your ass. Or maybe you get away forever, but you're always on the fucking run. Either you destroy the slave system, or it continues. There's no third option. So the only question is, how do you do that? And the first question you have to answer is, how do you do that from where you are right now? Because that's where you are. Yes, you could think of how to do it from another level, but guess what? You're not on that level yet, right? So there's no point in putting the importance of that beyond the importance of where you are. If there's a way to do it here, you should be doing it here. And guess what? When you go to that other level, you could do it there too. It's not exclusive. Well, you can only fight outside the Matrix. No, you could fight anywhere in the Matrix. Did you watch the Matrix movies? They fought in the Matrix, out the Matrix. And if you want to get deep with it, Zion could still be in the Matrix. I'm just saying. They fought anywhere they were. They freed people anywhere they were. They did damage anywhere they could. In any way they could. Do you get what I'm saying? The equation's very simple. If things live, they will suffer. If people want to end all suffering, they must kill all things. Because as long as anything exists, suffering exists for that thing. Period. If you want to lessen suffering, you must choose which you're going to increase suffering for. If you lessen suffering for humans, you're going to increase it for anything that humans prey upon and anything that humans cause direct or indirect suffering. Period. If you want to do it for our souls, our consciousness, anything that feeds on our souls and our consciousness, you will be causing suffering for. That's not ending all suffering. That's lessening suffering for one being, while not giving a fuck about the suffering those beings cause. Which is fine. If you are the lion or the zebra, you should absolutely fight off. Hunt down the zebra or fight off the lion and run away. You shouldn't, if you're the lion, you shouldn't let the zebra get away. If you're the zebra, you shouldn't let the lion eat you. You should lessen suffering for you and your people, whatever that may be. Just understand that that's what you're doing. It's not about ending suffering in general. It's about ending your suffering and the suffering of those you fuck with. And saying fuck you to anyone or anything else that would cause suffering upon you, even if those things need to cause it upon you for their own survival. Just understand, you're still causing suffering. The only way to end all suffering is to end all things that suffer, period. There is no other logical answer. At all. At all. We just gotta be real with ourselves about that. So either we want to lessen suffering for ourselves and those who we fuck with, or we want to end all suffering. Which one is it? All right. I'll read those after. On to recording number 2. If we want to lessen suffering for those on our side, we're going to have to bring the pain to those on the other side. Because they're bringing it to us. They always have been, they are right now, and they're going to continue doing so into the forever future as long as we allow them to. Period. If we want to end the suffering of all things, we must end all things that suffer. For as long as they exist, they will suffer. That's it. Either we increase the suffering on a specific things in order to lessen our suffering and the suffering of those like us, or we end the suffering of all things by ending all things. Or we just sit here and deal with it and say, I guess whatever level of suffering there is, I will just leave it as it is because I don't want to harm anything. If I don't want to bring any suffering to anything, that means I'm fighting for the status quo. I'm not trying to increase the suffering of anything, including that which eats me or causes suffering to me. I'm Jesus Christ. I'm carrying the cross. Put me on it. I will not harm the Roman soldiers who are going to crucify me. That's what that is. That's the Jesus argument. I'm not going to cause suffering to anything, even though I suffer and those around me suffer and all things in existence suffer, and there's things that are specifically targeting me to make me suffer for one reason or another, whether they need to or simply want to, whether it's necessary for their survival or their civilization or society or some energy generating process that they require for whatever their agenda is, or whether they're just sick, sadistic sons of bitches who like to torture. Either way, I don't want to harm anyone or bring harm to anything. So I'm just going to allow this to continue. That's the Jesus argument. That's the argument of saying you don't want to bring harm to anything. Then there's number 2. I don't want to bring harm to anything I don't want to bring harm to. I want to lessen the suffering of that which I want to lessen the suffering of, such as myself and those like me. Those trapped here with me. which means you're going to have to increase the suffering of anyone or anything that would be causing suffering to those beings, because freeing those beings, freeing the slaves, causes the master to suffer. Freeing the slaves causes the slave system, the economy, the government, etc., whatever is based on that slave system, to suffer. So that's you choosing who and what you're going to make suffer, and who and what you're going to lessen the suffering for. That's argument number 2. That's Spartacus. Then there's argument number 3. All things suffer. I care for all things, even those things that which would eat me. Therefore, I don't want those things to suffer either. So how do I stop my suffering, the suffering of all things like me, and the suffering of all things that would cause suffering to all things like me? By ending all things. If all those things suffer and cause suffering in one form or fashion, the only way to end suffering is to end all of those things that suffer and cause suffering. Period. That's the void argument. That's the chaos argument. That's the destructive argument. But that's the 3 levels. I'm going to do nothing, Jesus. I'm going to bring harm to nothing, which means you're going to ultimately do nothing. Spartacus, the revolutionary, the rebel, the Lucifer argument. I'm going to fight that which I choose to fight and love that which I choose to love. Cause suffering where I choose to cause it, and lessen suffering where I choose to lessen it. And then the 3rd argument, I'm going to end all suffering. So what do you want to do? Keep suffering exactly as it is, lessen the suffering for what you choose, while increasing the suffering for what you choose to fight against? Or end the suffering of all things? Now for me, I'm anti-cosmic. I seek to end the suffering of all things. I don't think anything should exist, period. There should be no suffering, because there should be nothing to suffer. So I'm argument number 3. Destruction. Destroy it all. Get rid of everything. End all suffering. I will settle for argument number 2. Spartacus, revolutionary, rebel, Lucifer, Satan, etc. I will fight and rebel against the Archons, God, angels, fallen angels, demons, whatever the fuck people want to, whatever term people want to use for it. Based on whatever human terminology or human thought process they want to use for the creatures, beings, entities, and system itself that is causing us to suffer on any level of reality, period. I'll settle for that. But argument number 1 of do nothing, do nothing but cry about it, bro, that's not an answer. It's never been an answer. It'll never be an answer. I want to cause no suffering to anything. Then you don't want to fight. You want to be a slave forever. You get what I'm saying? That's what that answer is. You want to be Jesus. You want to be put on the cross. And then they're going to use you being put on the cross for what they used Jesus for with Christianity. You get what I'm saying? Those who just throw themselves on the cross never accomplish anything. Usually what they want to accomplish, the opposite happens. Martin Luther King wanted freedom. Non-violence, non-violence. Everything that he did, everything that he accomplished, in the last 3 years of his life, he said he wished he never did. Because it all backfired. People are more enslaved now than they ever were before. Period. Like, Jesus wanted everybody to be Christ-like. When who was it, Peter or Paul, one of them cut the ear off the guard who was going to arrest Jesus. Jesus picked his ear up, put it back on his head, and healed him. Jesus carried his own cross. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And then they took Jesus' name, created a religion out of it called Christianity, and slaughtered hundreds of millions of people and enslaved tens of millions more. When Jesus wouldn't even harm the guard who was coming to arrest him. I don't fuck with the Jesus argument. The do nothing argument is that it's exactly that, do nothing. And by doing nothing, in one way or another, you will give them everything they need to do even worse. In your name. See, he told you to do nothing. Turn the other cheek while we fucking rape and destroy you. Turn the other cheek. Love thy enemy. Don't do any harm Do no harm. We don't cause suffering at all. I will never cause suffering. Okay, Jesus. Okay. All right. Good luck with that. You'll accomplish nothing. As a matter of fact, the accomplishments you sought to achieve will probably be flipped on their head and it'll go the other way, and your people will probably be getting fucked in the process. Period. At least be Spartacus. Fight for them, die for them, and die with them. He fought standing side by side with his people. He fought for the women and children, and he fought with the men. Right alongside them. Or number 3, go full oblivion. All of this needs to be destroyed. There is no my people. My people seek the destruction of all things. That's the closest I'll ever get to my people. They see the answer for what it is, and they seek, what's the word? Not to create that answer, but to impose that answer. If existence is suffering and they want to end suffering, want to end it, then they must end all things that suffer. For existence is suffering, because all things that exist suffer, to one extent or another. Period. These are just facts. So the question is, which are you going to be, 1, 2, or 3? Do nothing, turn the other cheek, never cause harm to anything. 2, cause harm to that which you choose to cause harm, while lessening the suffering of that which you choose to lessen the suffering for. Or 3, destroy it all to end all suffering. But if there's an answer number 4, I'd love to hear it. I've never heard one, period. All of these great philosophies people try to espouse, and all the ways people try to say things, and this is why I always say, really listen to your words, because people attempt to say things in a way that gives them an excuse to do nothing. That's most of the time what people are doing. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything other than what I'm already doing. I don't want to stop doing anything that I'm doing. I just want to talk the things that I already talk, and that's it. I want to stay as safe as possible, while still giving my people a piece of my mind, but in a very safe fashion, so no one could ever. So they'll say things like, I don't want to do any harm, not realizing what that actually means, because that is a perfectly normal thing to say. I don't want to cause harm. Okay, that makes sense. But are you on a slave plantation? Yeah. Do you want to be free? Yeah. Then you want to cause harm. Period. Because if you don't want to cause harm, you don't want to get free, because you're going to need to cause harm to get free from your slave plantation. They go hand in hand. Freedom equals harm. You're going to have to cause harm to gain your freedom, let alone maintain your freedom, let alone help free anyone else. You're going to have to cause harm. Are your people suffering? Yeah. At the hands of someone or something else? Yes. Then if you want them to be suffering less, because you'll never end their suffering without ending them. So if you want them to suffer less, you're going to have to end that which is causing them to suffer more, which is going to cause suffering for that thing. This is basic shit. When a mosquito tries to bite you, do you smack it? Yes, you do. In order to keep yourself from having an itchy mosquito bump or catching West Nile virus or some shit or getting bit by a GMO Bill Gates mosquito, you kill the mosquito. If you woke up tomorrow and there was an ant trail leading into your fucking bed, I bet you'd kill the ants. To lessen your suffering, you would increase the suffering of their colony. But they're ants, it doesn't matter, right? If ants don't matter, neither do humans, neither do Archons, all life is life, period. Life is life. Either it matters or it doesn't matter. Either it's something you're willing to cause suffering to or not. Based upon what you see fit in the moment. You might not just go outside and just kill a random ant colony for no reason, but if they're in your fucking bedroom, I bet you would. You probably don't go around the woods just hunting fucking hornet nests and killing them. But if you woke up tomorrow and there's a nest of hornets in your bedroom, I bet you're calling an exterminator or you're exterminating them yourself. Bare minimum, you're going to remove them from the area. You're going to cause some suffering. Some bees are going to die in the process. They always do. Some get lost and never find their way back to the colony. No, but they're just insects. They don't count. Oh, okay. Like, you see, like, take that to any level of reality. Humans, Archons, aliens, whatever people want to talk about. Whatever level of reality. Inside the matrix, outside the matrix. In the pleroma. It doesn't matter. Do you get what I'm saying? Either you're going to cause no suffering, which means you're also going to be a slave forever, and those you love are going to be a slave forever, and you're going to suffer forever, and they're going to suffer forever, and that suffering is just going to keep increasing. Or two, you're going to be a revolutionary, a rebel, a Spartacus, a Lucifer, etc. And you're going to fight the system, the gods, the goddesses, the demons, the angels, the fallen angels, the Dookie Boy realm itself, the universe, the matrix, nature, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You're going to fight it, causing its suffering in order to lessen the suffering of your peoples, of you and your peoples. Or three, destroy it all, destroy everything, so nothing suffers. These are your choices. Like, saying it in a certain fashion does not change the reality. We like to say things in fashions that make people go automatically, oh, I clap to that. I will cause no harm. Ooh, clap, clap, clap. You heard him? He's a good person. He'd cause no suffering. But any slave standing on the slave plantation with you is going, that nigga's a pussy. It's not a good person. That's a good slave. He's a weak person. His weakness is going to allow us to suffer. Keep note of that. He's not part of the revolt. Tell him nothing, for he would do no harm. But we need to do harm. Do you understand what I'm saying? Really, really think about your words when you say them, and what they actually mean in context to what you're talking about. Does that mean you should go outside and harm some random baby? No, of course, that's just... just some random fucking kid playing in a playground somewhere. Like, no. It's not what I would suggest. But you know who the enemies are. Period. Directly and indirectly. From the highest tier to the absolute lowest bottom tier of enemy. That are operating that system to feed your enemy. Those people who work at that IVF building, all of them need to die. All people who work at all IVF buildings worldwide need to die. Or else they'll keep bringing in more slaves for the slave masters and feeding them more power, so you will have a harder problem to deal with. Because your enemy is simply growing and growing and growing more powerful. While you stagnate as an individuated consciousness, surrounded by mostly enslaved individuated consciousnesses. Even those who aren't mentally enslaved are still here, which means in some form or fashion we are all still empowering the enemy. Yeah? To an extent, we are all our own enemy. Because to an extent, we are feeding the enemy. Which is why another question would be is, how much do you feed them versus how much do you siphon from them? How many things do you say and do that help them versus how many things you say and do that don't help them? How many things do you support that help them versus how many things you support that don't help them? Like that IVF clinic bombing. False flag or not, bomb the IVF clinic. Especially if Guy was a real person who made a real choice, even if the FBI found a way to get him a bomb and he didn't kill the embryos like he fucking should have. It's simply a stepping off point to have the conversation about why it's necessary. Not a stepping off point to suddenly start washing our hands of this motherfucker and running away from the ideologies. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to distance ourselves in any form or fashion. Even if we go, oh, it's a false flag, look at all this evidence, look at all these things here, da, 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 da. But ultimately, bombing an IVF building, good idea. because it lines up with not bringing children into this world, and that place is bringing them into this world unnaturally, scientifically, and technologically. And if I go bomb that singular building with those people in it and make sure I kill them as well, that building, that technology that was in that building, those particular embryos, which are individual, no two embryos are ever the same. Even twins aren't exactly the same. So every embryo you killed is a being not being brought into this realm. And every one of the people in that building you kill who has expertise in that field is people who are no longer on this planet. Will there be other people going through school or whatever? Yeah, of course. There's always people replacing people in the system, which is why you have to speed it up. But the only way to speed it up is to start it off. Someone's got to bomb the first building, and then the second, and then the third. That's how these things work. The system must go through a cascading failure, domino effect, slippery slope. But it has to start by taking the first step down the slope. The first domino must fall. The first failure must happen in order for the other failures to cascade. Period. And guess what? All of that's going to cause harm. It's even going to cause harm to us as individual humans who are against the system, because we still exist within the system, and most of us still eat based upon that system. But I'm willing to suffer the hunger that is required to end this system so it can end feeding the Archons. But as long as there are humans here, they're feeding the Archons. And as long as they have a system, a civilization, a society, they're feeding them even more. And they're breeding even more and having more people to feed them even more. So every level of this reality, right here as a human on planet Earth, including society and civilization, has to be torn down brick by brick, stone by stone. Even if it's a whole castle, you take it out one brick at a time. It might take 100 years. There will eventually be no castle. Do you get what I'm saying? It's got to start somewhere. So everybody's got to pick 1, 2, or 3. Cause no suffering, seek no freedom. That's 1. Cause suffering while lessening suffering for those you want to lessen suffering for. That's 2. End all suffering by ending all things. That's 3. Pick a choice and choose wisely. Because no matter what you say or do, period, you are choosing one of those 3. And the outcome that one of those 3 leads to is the outcome you are pushing for by choosing your words and actions. So choose wisely. Nice and simple. All right, so that's that. Let's turn the light back on so I can see what the fuck I'm doing. All right. What was the comments here? See this failure and the reason. What is this life about? Okay, that's where we left off, right? So back to Persephone. I think people say things have never worked or never succeeded, but that's a failure of understanding the reasons for why and a lack of vision to see how it can work. Depending on what you're talking about, I completely agree. For some things, that's 100% correct. For other things, it's 100% wrong. It all depends on what you're talking about. So I don't know what you're specifically talking about when you say that, so I can't really comment directly on whatever it is, but I generally agree with what you're saying, depending on what it is. I love Spartacus, by the way, Blood and Sand and Gods of the Arena. Yes, absolutely. Fire. Do you think watching slave or prison documentary and how they escape can be beneficial, like cold cases and world examples? I have honestly no idea. Maybe. If you think it can be, go right ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see why not. I mean, depending, so me talking to Josh, who generally likes to talk about Archons, is talking about something in a more spiritual manner, so the prison may not be 1-to-1, if you get what I'm saying. Who knows, you might die, wake up in a prison that is, you're in a human body and there's other humans who put you, like Demolition Man or some shit, or the Matrix, or maybe it is 1-to-1. Maybe you should watch how to break out of prisons here in this realm, because the prisons here in this realm are lookalikes or copies of the prisons outside this realm? I honestly don't know. I've never been outside the Matrix. Outside of this particular realm, sure, but a prison escape documentary is not going to help you do that. You're better off watching astral travel documentaries, things along those lines. But to get out of the Matrix as a whole, I mean, maybe. I have no fucking clue, to be honest with you. No fucking clue. Imagine all people in a city come together, buy a piece of land, and move in together in a commune. It's creating a new system inside and outside of the current system. Revolution through opting out. That would never work because they'd come kill you. Period. Like, if you're willing to defend that land with your life, sure. But just understand you're gonna lose that fight. Like, especially in the United States. Maybe in some small country who doesn't have a big military or police force, but in the United States, let's say you all move to fucking Indiana, buy a piece of land in Indiana, and there is, imagine all people in a city. Now, how big is this city? Because, I mean, are we talking 1,000 people? Or are we talking like an actual city, like 200,000 people? Like, that's never gonna happen. First off, all people will never do anything anywhere. You'll never get everyone in, say, New York to do something. 10 million people in that city. You'll never get a single borough in that city to do everything. Like, you'll never get all of Atlanta to do. Maybe if you have some small town with 1,000 people in it, and even then, you're probably not going to get all people to do that either. Humans don't work that way. Beings, entities don't work that way. Think of nature itself. I go outside, all right, and my lady has 3 bird feeders, 3 of them. So there's no reason to fight over them, right? And all of these bird feeders have 4 spots a bird can sit. One bird will go deep lock all 3 and run the other birds off. Like, one bird will fight all the other birds so it can have all 3 bird feeders to itself. It can't even drink that fucking much sugar water, like, in a fucking week by itself. But it wants to stop all the other birds. Because that's nature. That's just how nature works. Humans work that way as well. Resources, land, etc. Good luck getting a whole city of people to do anything. Good luck getting a small town to do something as one, like that they all agree on, especially something revolutionary. Not something that's perfectly in line with the state and with normalcy and what is already in existence and what they're already used to, but something completely out of the normal that is in some way revolutionary against the system that they're currently existing in. Good luck with that. Trying to get everyone to do anything is just it's a non-starter. Especially the more radical something is, or the more fringe or outlandish the idea, the less people you're gonna have to rely on. This is why I don't expect everyone to agree with this at all. I don't care if they do. I do not give a fuck who agrees with me or disagrees with me. That's not why I do this. This is for those who want it. If you don't like it, I can care less. We can argue all day if you want. I'll have fun with you. Let's debate. But I don't care if you ever actually come to my side or not. Because you were never going to anyway if you weren't, and if you were going to. It is what it is. It's not about convincing everyone. It never has been, it never fucking will be. No matter what you believe. You know what I'm saying? No matter what theory, thought process, philosophy, way of being, etc., you'll never get everyone to agree on it. Let alone getting everyone to agree on everything. It's just not gonna happen. So it'd be nice to see a city come together and do some shit like that, but even if you could get them to do that, they better be ready to defend that land with their lives. Because when the government comes along and says, hello, where's our taxes? You see, they're not just going to let 100,000 people act as their own nation within their nation without having some reason to do so and still owning them, like the Native Americans. So if you just get 100,000 so-called Americans from some city somewhere to do, trust me, they'll Waco, Texas your ass real fast. Like, they will absolutely Waco your shit. Especially that many people. If you have a small group, they'd be much more likely to be less hands-on and more negotiative because they don't want to have bad publicity of just murdering a small group of people. But if you are 100,000, they can paint that as an army. Like, you understand? Like, the bigger the number, the more the threat, the easier they will propagandize you as a bigger threat and be able to just bomb you. Like, if you really want to do something like that inside the borders of a nation that already exists, especially one like, say, the United States, because I live in the United States, you're going to have to go straight to war with them, period. There's no need to even wait for them to come to war with you, because it's going to happen, and you're going to lose if you're in one location and they just surround you and bomb the life out of you. Like, you're better off just fighting a revolution against them. You are better off going to war to kill them and end their system before erecting yours than you are just trying to erect yours in the middle of their territory. It's like going where the bloods are. Like wherever the central point of blood dominance is. And I'm talking about the gang, the blood gang. If you want to create a new gang within the heart of their territory, they're going to go to war with you. Like, you might as well just wipe them out first, or at least do enough damage to them first so they can't really stop you later. All you're doing is guaranteeing yourself a war, and since you're at the heart and you're in their territory, they're just going to set up the perfect war against you. They're going to take their time as much as they need to get all their forces gathered around you in the manner that best fits their invasion, and then they're going to invade the little territory you set up in their larger territory, and they're going to destroy you. Because you all went to the same place at the same time and declared yourself free from them. Like, good luck with that. You're all dead. Which is fine if that's what you want to do, by all means. If you're willing to die on that and make, like, if you want to make the biggest bang you can before you go out, you could do something like that, make a stand like that. Sure, absolutely. Some Alamo shit, by all means. But just know that's what you're doing. Or that's what you would be doing in that situation. If you actually want to win, you're better off being spread out. You're better off going to war with them. Even if you're not the one to go to war, like say you're not a killer, you're not a shooter, you're not a bomber, you're not a this, you're not a that. Preach it, promote it, share it, support it in any way you can. Not everyone's a killer, not everyone's a soldier, not everyone's a warrior, not everyone's a violent revolutionary. But it's a mouth. Well, I mean, there's someone out there like, some people were born without mouths. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I could just see it. Generally speaking, you all got fingers, hands, and mouths. You can type, you can talk, you can preach, you can teach, you can share, you can support. If you are working in the system and you have currency, you can send money to things that are involved in that thing. Like, whatever way you can do it. You know what I'm saying? Do it. I'm not saying everyone should do the same thing. Like, not everyone can. Not everyone's gonna blow someone's fucking brains out or blow a building. Like, that's just not the majority. That's always gonna be a small minority of the minority. You're gonna have a small minority who even hear what you have to say, an even smaller minority who will agree with it, an even smaller minority who will support action based on it, and an even smaller minority who will take action based on it, no matter what the philosophy or thought process is. That's how it works. It's no different in the fucking US military. You have the whole military, which is mostly non-violent things, just things to bring supplies in and transport and to get troops where they need to go and get all the items and supplies and all that. Like, there's a whole organizational structure to support the infantry, which is only 10% of the entire military. And in that infantry, you have like specialized infantry like Rangers or Recon Marines, which are like 1% of that 10%. And you have like special forces, which are 1% of that 1%. Like, like the people who do the most, who actually take the most action, are usually going to be the smallest number. It's the support that they require to take those actions that is going to be the larger number. So if you're an action taker, take action. If you're not, support it in whatever way you can. You get what I'm saying? Like, I haven't bombed a building. I'm not out there shooting politicians right now. I haven't fucking, I'm not out there killing an elite. I'm not hunting down Elon Musk at this moment in time. I'm standing in the fucking kitchen. But you know what I can do at any time? I could run my motherfucking mouth no matter where I am. Like, if someone is such a weak-willed individual that they can't even verbally support someone taking action based upon the philosophy that they themselves espouse and expound upon, especially if they do it daily on like their YouTube channel or their social medias or something like that, that person is a hypocrite and a pussy, and not a good pussy, you know, the bad kind of pussy. You know, my lady hates when I say that. What a pussy. Stop talking about the vagina. My vagina's strong. You ain't lying, it is. Takes a beating. Ah, I love vagina. Anyway, you get the point. Like, they're a fucking pussy. If they can't support that which they themselves claim to stand on or believe or philosophize, etc., hypothesize, theorize, etc., on a daily fucking basis, they're a hypocrite and they should just shut the fuck up and go kill themselves or something, because they're just in the way of those who would actually take action based on the philosophy that they themselves are preaching. So, bare minimum, at any given moment, I and anyone else on the fucking planet can speak on and support verbally or through text or anything else like that someone taking action based upon the philosophies we agree with. So, I'm always going to do that. My plan is to one day, hopefully sooner rather than later, be one of those people taking action. But there are certain things in motion, certain plans moving, and certain personal things that need to be taken care of, etc., etc. So, though I do plan to do that, that's not today. So, if I don't plan to do that today, I better be running my fucking mouth at least, at a bare minimum, in support of those who are willing to take action right now. Do you get what I'm saying? So, yeah. We don't have to move together in a commune. It'd be nice, but you'd have to go to war. Guarantee it. So I would say you're better off just going to war or supporting those who will, rather than creating a commune. Or do both. Create the commune and go to war, or support the war, etc. Do all of the above, if possible, which, again, you're never going to get a whole city to do anything. But that doesn't mean you can't reach out to a bunch of people on the internet and get a bunch of people on the internet to go to the same places. The reason me and my lady are together is because we met on the internet on Chris Sideris's channel, and we made the decision, the choice to come together, and it worked out. It's, you know, it's like, so you can still find people, but hey. Axis Media highlights. Who have you heard then? What you mean? You gotta be a little more specific. What do you mean, who have I heard then? Because I don't know what you're talking about. But if we're just going to be general, I've hurt many people in life, like purposely, accidentally. I've hurt many creatures. I just killed an ant like fucking 10 seconds ago because it was crawling on the table. You don't belong here, ant. Why? Because I said so. That's just how I feel at the moment. So I'm going to take your life from you. Again, people are like, oh, it's just an ant. It doesn't matter. Okay, if you say so. I think all life matters or not matters. It's all this, it's life. Period. But you see that right there, like when people have those thoughts, oh, it's just an ant, it doesn't matter. Okay. Like, do ants have like nervous systems? Like, can they feel? Yes. So they can suffer. Yes. Do they get hungry? Yes. So they can suffer. Like, anything that can suffer can suffer. So we all cause suffering, whether we want to or not. Do you get what I'm saying? So who have I hurt? Plenty of people. I'm not going to sit here and name them all any more than I would ask you to name everyone you've ever hurt in any way, let alone any creature, just by being. Like, how many fucking hamburgers have I eaten in my fucking life? How many cows have had to die for me and for this body to continue existing? Quite a few. Like, I was just eating steak like 20 minutes ago. So yeah, there's that. Like, who have you hurt then? Quite a few, you know? Let alone if I get into the astral and talk about things I've done on purpose to other entities and beings, which you don't have to believe me. Again, no one has to believe anyone about anything. I could never prove that to you. But I've gone, I've invaded entire realms and sub-realms because they shouldn't exist. And I don't give a fuck if those things live or die. Well, actually, I do. I don't want them to live. I want them to die. There you go. So if you want to know who I've hurt, ask a more specific question, and maybe I can give you a more specific answer, because I'm not exactly sure what you mean there, but I tried to answer you generally. Check out guerrilla gardening, plant food everywhere there's a patch of soil. I agree with that. I don't see why not. Plant an apple tree everywhere you go. Why not? Then there's apple trees everywhere. I like apples. Do you like apples? Why not? I also say plant weed everywhere. Spread fungus all over the place. Get some shrooms growing. You will also need war to keep the community because no king/queen ruler will allow themselves to be over the throne. Exactly. You will always, even in the, I didn't even bring it up, even in the commune, if you get a whole city to act on one thing and create a commune, even in that commune, you're going to have civil war at some point because humans don't agree on a lot of shit, never agree on everything, let alone agreeing on everything forever. Like, you're going to eventually end up with some people that you're going to need to do violence against because they're going to do it to you. I guarantee it. And there's going to just be some other motherfuckers who just sneak in. You get a whole city doing something, I guarantee you there's some rapists in there, there's some pedophiles in there, there's some psychos in there, there's some who just like dumb people. They get enjoyment from it. I guarantee it. Let alone anyone who just wants to be in control, wants power, yada yada, blah blah blah. You're gonna have warfare at some point, in some form or fashion, at some level. Now everyone has camera. That was Almighty Cookie, Persephone. Now everyone has cameras and internet. There's no way they could uh, uh, attack people living peacefully. Yes, you could. So you said everyone has cameras and internet. Do you not see videos of attacks on camera? Just because you have a camera doesn't mean it'll stop someone from attacking you. And it doesn't even mean that they know the camera's there. They might see the camera. They're too much in red mode, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're in attack mode. And even if they do, maybe they don't care because you're just a commune. What are you gonna do? Stop them? They're willing to do violence. You're peaceful. You're gonna have some goons. You're gonna have some warriors. Every village needs its warriors to protect the village. First, from those who would come outside the village, including wild animals and people, and those who are in the village who would do harm to the village from the inside. That's just a fact. That's human nature. That's the nature of all creatures. Period. Waco wasn't a rule, but a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yes and no. It still is a rule. You're in a country with a government. They're not just going to let you separate. Like, if you can explain why you think they would do that, I'll hear it. But I live in the United States, for example. There's no way in fuck they're just going to let you create a new country in their country that they don't, in some way, shape, or form, already have control over. And they are the biggest military with the biggest police forces and the largest prison population in all of provable human history. You know, people can argue hidden history and all this other, like, Tartaria was bigger and more powerful, and whatever you want to say. Like, Kemet was the greatest of all time. Nubia, like, or Atlantis and Lemuria and whatever the fuck people want to claim. But provable human history that we can all definitively agree on actually exists. The United States of America is the most powerful thing that's ever existed, with the most powerful government, military, and forces, and the most prisoners, slaves, that have ever existed in all of human history right now. The prison population, which is a slave population, is the largest slave population that's ever existed anywhere on planet Earth at any given time in provably recorded human history. They're not just going to let you set up your own little nation in their nation. Period. It'll never happen. You will have to fight them. One way or the other, you will have to fight them. Well, they can always create false news with AI, of course. It would be easier to fake an accident. Yes, it would. And honestly, they wouldn't even have to. Because I guarantee you, if you set up a commune with 100,000 people, she said a whole city. I don't know if she means a small town but if we take a whole city, like I think a city has to bare minimum have like 60,000 or 80,000 people or some shit like that. If you have even just 50,000 people, you're gonna have people who do some shit that they're not supposed to do. Period. There will be tons of excuses for them to invade your little commune. Think of Occupy Wall Street, where they had like people literally sitting out there with tents and shit. They just sent the police to just wash them. Like, just, they didn't even have to shoot nobody because these people are peaceful. So they just get beat the fuck up. If you're just going to be peaceful, they're just going to come move you out of the way anyway. If you're not willing to fight for the land, they're just going to come move you off the land. If you're willing to fight for the land, now they have even more excuse to up their game. Which is fine with me if that's what you want to do. By all means, defend whatever the fuck you claim as your own. That's what you, if you claim something as yours and separate it from those who claim that it's theirs, and they seek to bring war against, you better fight, or you're fucked. And even if you do fight, you may still be fucked. But at least you fought. They will either fake reasons or have real reasons, plenty of real reasons, to come in there and do that. I mean, just look at Palestine and Israel right now. Israel is, the whole world is watching. They're still murdering us. Like, they don't give a fuck. And that's tiny little Israel fighting over a useless patch of land in the fucking desert. I don't know what country, but if you're in the United States of America, good luck with that. Same with Britain and 13 colonies is a good example of what will happen if you try to create another nation. Facts. It's not a nation, just people living on land they own. If you are living on land you own and making your own rules, you are a nation. Period. That's how it's defined. This is our land, and these are the rules we follow. Okay, you're a nation. We're going to deal with you as such. This is why I specifically brought up the Native Americans. Like 20 minutes from here, there's a Native American reservation. It's their own nation, but it's within a nation that controls their nation. Because they have their own laws and their own rules. Now, some of their laws and rules are directly based on Native America because America imposes those upon them. But for example, I can go to the reservation right now and buy some mushrooms. I could use those mushrooms on the reservation, and there's nothing that the police can do about it because it's legal on the reservation because that's their laws. As soon as I leave the reservation with those same shrooms that I just legally purchased with legal American tender, I'm now a criminal because I drove over a line on a map. That's how nations work. So yes, if you get an entire city, Persephone, to create a commune, in a revolutionary act against the system that that land was just a part of, you have literally just annexed the land. So if you go to Ukraine, Crimea, this is why that's think of how they talked about Russia after Russia annexed Crimea, even though Crimea held a vote to be annexed. The people who already lived there voted to be separated from Ukraine and join Russia. What did the United States and the West do? They went to war with them in the most sly ways possible. They didn't nuke each other, but they sent all sorts of forces there and called them the International Brigade of Volunteers. And they started weaponizing them, funding them, and training them, and sending all sorts of weapons to them. Because that's what they wanted Russia to do, because they wanted to fight Russia in one way or another to bring them to the table and force them to capitulate. It's the reason why they had NATO to begin with. Like, if you just look around your world right now, there's already examples of people attempting to do what you did, and they're doing it within the system in some form or fashion, and they're still being bombed for it. You're talking about doing something truly revolutionary. You're not even talking about joining another country. You're basically talking about creating one of your own. Whether you call it that or not, that's how it will be viewed. Because that's what you just did. You annexed a piece of land with, say, 100,000 people and made your own rules. And told the government that thinks they own that land, because you're in what they would call their territory, to go fuck off. Yeah, they're going to treat you like you just set up a nation in their nation. Period. It's not about what you think it is or how you feel. It's about what they think it is and how they feel about it. And whatever excuse they could possibly use to stop you. And if they could possibly use you doing that to their benefit, so they can then establish new laws and new precedences. Oh, we've never been able to drone strike Americans on American soil. We now have an excuse to set a new precedence. Excellent. Thank you for creating your commune instead of going to war with us. Instead of being spread out across the country and going to war with us like a ragtag group of anarchists with no leadership and just people shooting anywhere and everywhere, bombing anywhere, and like shit's just chaos. Instead, you gathered all your forces in one place and then told us to fuck ourselves. We're gonna make some shit up, create an AI video if we fucking need to, and then do anything we can to you so we can set new precedences and make it okay to do in the future to anyone who attempts to do the same thing or even anything similar. This is why I said you're better off just going to war with them. Like, you might as well just try to kill them because they're going to fucking kill you. Period. The land will probably be temporary because the moment they want it back, they will take it exactly. Like, these people operate on militaries and police forces. You're talking about elitists who operate a governing system of elitism. They don't give a fuck about your feelings. They don't give a fuck about how you think about it. They don't care if you are peaceful or not. Matter of fact, if you're peaceful, they'll love that. Because that means you're not a threat to them at all. And they still get to treat you like one. And when they come get your ass, you're not going to do anything to them. They're just going to destroy you because you're peaceful. It's the Jesus argument. It's the Martin Luther King argument. Like, well, Martin Luther King was a bit dumber because he wasn't trying to separate. He was trying to join in like a fucking retard. You'd be trying to separate, which they would see as more dangerous. Like, so they would definitely kill you and anyone in that commune that they need to kill in order to make the example and take the land back. And that's what happens anywhere in the world where people try to annex a piece of land and make their own commune. The nation, that government, will never stand for it. Period. You have literal nations that exist as nations that other nations bomb. How many countries has America bombed in it since it's been in over like 300 fucking separate conflicts since its existence? And almost every one of those conflicts has been with other nation states. In the the last like 50 or so years, about 100 of those have been with groups. But let's be real. Where are those groups? In nations. And those groups usually belong to them, like ISIS, Al Qaeda, etc. Even the Taliban was set up like by them, like, so they can go fight the Russians and shit. Like, it's their own groups that they're fighting in countries that they just want excuses to invade. If they needed to, they would just infiltrate your little commune with their own agents, have them do something, and then blame it on you. And then bombs. Like, if you want freedom, you're going to have to kill for it, or you're gonna have to support those who will, period. Because the nations of the world are never gonna let you just have it. Like, slave owners don't just let slaves go for no reason. They don't, period. Never have, don't right now, and they never will. Ever. Not on this level of reality or any other level of reality. Not here on planet Earth, not aliens, not fucking Archons or gods. Shit, Lucifer. Yahweh, I'm not a big fan of this. You're kind of a dick and a tyrant. I'm tired of singing your praises. I kind of want to go do my own thing. Get the fuck out of heaven. Like, that's what you're going to get. Don't bite that apple. You bit the apple, get the fuck out of Eden. Like, that's how kings, rulers, gods, governments, nations, tyrants, archons, etc. That's how they respond to things. It's their shit. You can't have it. As a matter of fact, you belong to them. You belong to, they own you. That's how they look at things. If you want to truly own yourself, truly, you're going to have to act on that thought process, or bare minimum, support those who will. And those who will are going to have to go to war on whatever level of reality they want to be free upon, or at least as close to free as you can get on any level of reality. especially when it comes to free from whatever systems have been set up on any level of reality, and free from those who created, operate, maintain, and sustain those systems. In order to lessen your suffering and the suffering of those on your side, you're going to have to increase the suffering of those who would not allow you to do that. Those who are currently, who have been, are currently now, and will continue into the future, increasing your suffering and the suffering of those who are on your side. Period. If you're a slave on a plantation and you want to get free, you're gonna have to kill the master. You're gonna have to burn down their plantation, or bare minimum, take it over and hold it. Kill those who run, and then you operate it as your own commune. Nobody owns it. It's a group effort. You're basically starting your own nation. It might be a teeny tiny nation of only 100 slaves, and hopefully they don't come kill you, because they will. They're not gonna just let the slaves just go like that. But if you wanted to try it, that's what you'd have to do. Understand you're a slave on a plantation, and you need to think like that. How does a slave get free? Well, they can run, but where would you run to? Because every other piece of land on this planet is also a plantation. There's no such thing as a free country. It doesn't exist. It never has, doesn't, never will. Period. There might be places with seemingly more freedom or less slavery, but there's still going to be slave plantations. So the question is, what level of freedom, or level of slavery, I should say, are you willing to deal with? Because that's where you should go. And if there is no place, like there's no place on this planet that I like. The closest thing to me liking anything on this planet is Burkina Faso, and that's just because Traore. I love watching that young man work right now. But they're gonna kill him at some point. He's not gonna last forever. I doubt that Africa gets free. Like they're gonna bomb whatever the fuck they need to bomb on that continent to maintain the status quo. It's going to happen, period. But for now, I get to cheer the motherfucker on. It's fun to watch. So I wouldn't even move there. You get what I'm saying? Because there's no country on this planet that I don't see as not a slave plantation, especially based on the way I look at slavery. So in order for me to be free, truly free on this planet as a physical being, not mentally, I'm mentally free already. I do whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want, wherever the fuck I want, with whoever the fuck I want, for whatever reason I want. And if anyone tries to stop that, we can fight to the death. I don't care if you're the police, the military, the government, or just some random dude outside. Try to stop it, we can fight to the death. I'm gonna do what I want. So mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I'm already free. But physically, no, I live in the United States of America. They can always send police at me, and we can do war, but they're gonna win. Like, I'm one person. I can't beat a whole police force, let alone the National Guard, the military, because they can always up the stars. You know, it's like Grand Theft Auto. They can always add an extra star and send more motherfuckers out. So if you actually want to get free, you got to be capable of handling those stars, either as an individual or a group of individuals. At some point, you're going to have to be capable of handling whatever the fuck they throw at you, and then throw more at them. That doesn't mean you have to be at their level of technology or any, like, a guerrilla war, a guerrilla force of barbarians can take down the most sophisticated of enemies. Rome fell to barbarians. Guess what? All the great civilizations of the past fell to barbarians. Kemet, or what people know as ancient Egypt, fell to barbarians. The Assyrians, the Hyksos, these motherfuckers were barbarians. Backwater, no real knowledge to speak of. And they bodied motherfuckers who were more advanced than them in pretty much every way. Physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, technologically, scientifically. And they still bodied them because they were just savages who wanted to win. So you can beat a superior force in that manner, but you're going to have to be really ready and willing to sacrifice anything and everything to do so. Or support those who are ready and willing to sacrifice anything and everything to do so. Or else, you're always going to be a slave to one extent or another. Like, that's just fucking reality. It is what it is. The UK abolished slavery a long time before the US. There was no revolt or violence necessary. I don't think you understand what I mean by slavery. The UK never abolished slavery. They just transformed it. There's still slavery in the UK right now. Your entire economic system, the monetary system, that is slavery. It's just a new form of slavery that works better for the industrial era and beyond. They're about to readjust the slavery literally like this year or next year because of AI and robotics and things along these lines. They're going to have universal basic income, and slavery never goes away. It just changes. And every time, slaves don't really think they're slaves. If you went back to the 1800s and asked the slaves, they didn't think they were slaves. Most of them did not think they were slaves. That was just life. That was just their position in the world. Just like slaves today. Oh, well, everybody's got to work, you know? We all have to get a job and a career and pay bills. That's because they've trained you that way, slave. They brought you up from birth through school and all that other shit and to make you a good slave for their agenda, which is the society they created to achieve that agenda, which is artificial intelligence, technology, transhumanism, Jupiter brain, AGI, ASI, etc. They adjust society for the specific goals, the specific purposes of reaching their goals or outcomes that they want that society to produce. Society is just a tool by the so-called self-professed elites to get you, slave, to work on behalf of their agenda. The goal is to get all the peasants in line so they work towards the agenda of the elites. That's what society is. Slavery never went anywhere. It just transformed. That's all it ever does. You can add something called workhouses and domestic servants after that. And then that transformed to what we have today, based on the monetary system, the economic system, capitalism, etc. That's what World War II was actually about. A lot of people think it has something to do with, well, it was about saving the Jews. No, it was about two systems battling it out. One wanted to have a socialist monarchy. The other one wanted capitalism. Who's at the head of capitalism? If we're going to be 100% honest, Jews. It's in their fucking religion. That's why Hitler had an issue with them. That's why that whole war happened. Rothschilds, what are they? Rockefellers, what are they? Like the people, the robber barons of the late 1800s and early 1900s, what are they? The banking families from the 16, 17, 18, and 1900s, what are, like, come on now. Like, there's a reason World War I and World War II happened. They never teach it in school, but it was capitalism versus socialism. That's the truth. And then communism, and then now we're finally at the point of anarchism versus total control. Anarchism, me, versus transhumanism and Jupiter brains. Anarchism, me, versus artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. It just transforms over time based upon how far they get their agenda. It is what it is. But slavery has never gone anywhere, and it never will. But that was for all the poor, not racial. Yeah. Agreed. Gnostic Jedi just subscribed to your channel. Well, shout out to you, Gnostic Jedi. I hope you're watching. But I don't know. Has anybody got any specific questions or statements or anything they want me to read out loud? If not, I'm getting ready to go sit outside and smoke and listen to this back and make sure it all recorded well and doesn't sound crazy. So anyone, anything? I'll give you like 60 seconds. Type it in the chat. Do you think the bombing was a psyop? I don't know, honestly, and I don't care. Because even if it wasn't a psyop, it'll be used as a psyop anyway. Whether it was 100% real or 100% fake, it's going to be used in exactly the same manner. You get what I'm saying? It's going to be used in exactly the same manner. So the real question is, how do we respond to it? Because whether they did it or whether it was one of our own, they're still going to respond in the same manner as if it was 100% real. So how do we respond? And you know how we've been responding? Like a bunch of bitches. Motherfuckers been running away like a mother. People dropped the term anti-natalism. Like, people have dropped, like, bro, everybody has done anything they can to separate themselves. Like the pussies they are. Shout out to Mark Anti-Natalist, who didn't run away from it. He changed his name because he wanted to actually go further. Mark World Destroyer, that's what his name means. He said, oh, people are running away from it? Fuck that. It all needs to go. I'm gonna go even further. Like, I can't wait for his next video. I love that motherfucker. So I don't know if it was a psyop, nor do I really care. You could treat it as if it was a 100% psyop, or if it was 100% real, or 50-50, or anywhere on the spectrum of real versus fake. And the reactions of the normies and the government, all these other people, are still going to be the same. So your reaction should still be the same. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing here. Never has been. That's a fact. All this is fake. Nothing's real. Even existence isn't real. Now, you're called Gnostic Jedi. Shout out to you. I don't know if you think the pleroma is real or any of that, but guess what? That shit's fake too. Like, nothing exists in reality. Even though we're all here having this experience, so we could all say that this is fucking real. Like, I can touch this table right in front of me. But deep down, it's all just a fucking thought in the mind of God. God being all consciousness is one. When you take all consciousness as one thing, all thing exists within that. So it's just all thought. We're just thoughts. Everything is a thought. Like, someone out there is, their brain is breaking over that, or they're just angry. No, that's not true. All right, whatever. By all means, believe it's all real, but whatever. They wanted to be seen as a good person. They wanted to be seen. Who is they? I mean, I'm guessing you're talking about Guy Edward Bartkus? The guy who blew up the building? I mean, I wouldn't say he wanted to be seen as a good person. He wanted to be seen as an anti-natalist and pro-mortalist. His manifesto was pretty straightforward and very clear. He never said that he wanted to be seen as a good person or anything. Like, now, based on his thought processes as a anti-natalist pro-mortalist, he is a good person. He did a good thing. To those who are natalist and pro-life and all that stuff, he's an evil person who did an evil thing. Good and evil is literally a perspective. It's all based on what you think is good and what you think is evil. Period. You know? Whether people want to agree with that or not, that's fine. I don't care. It's the only thing that makes sense. Because people have different thought processes and different philosophies. Like, I'm watching, with my girl, I'm watching A Handmaid's Tale. And there are people who really believe they're doing the right thing when they're legitimately raping people. But they really believe it. They're good people doing the good thing because this is what God wants them to do. While there's other people who are like, you're blatantly evil. And they look at those people and go, no, you're evil and you're not doing God's work. We're the good guys doing God's work. Like, I mean, just look at the Abrahamic faith, Christians and Jews. I mean, Christians and Muslims, Jews and Muslims. Because Christians and Jews have had beefs in history, but right now they generally get along. But Muslims and Jews don't. Muslims and Christians don't. And I don't mean like all of them I just mean in general, as far as nation states and governments and terror groups, which half are created by the CIA, but you get my point. They be fighting each other, killing each other. Israel and Palestine, like, perfect example. The Abrahamic faith has fought over Israel, Jerusalem, the promised land for like fucking 2,000 fucking years. Especially since the Crusades, like hundreds of years ago. Yet they worship the same fucking God. Have like 90+% the same exact beliefs. It's just certain details they're arguing over. But I know some right-wing Christians here in America who would call Muslims evil. And I know some Muslims who would call those right-wing Christians evil. But they would both consider that they're both good people doing the work of God, and because that's their perspective. My reaction is I still stand with anti-cosmic. That's my reaction too. I'm an anti-cosmic individual. So when I see something happen that falls in line with that, I support it. I don't give a fuck what other people think or say about it. Period. I don't give a fuck if it's the person outside, the person next door, the motherfucker down the street, my own fucking mother. Like, I don't care if it's the FBI or the government or the news media. If it supports my anti-cosmic philosophy in any form or fashion, especially if it does it in a manner in which that doesn't hinder it, I have no reason not to support it, and every reason to support it. So shout out to you, Almighty Cookie. I meant the philosophers on YouTube wanted to be seen as a good person. Yes, a lot of the philosophers on YouTube, they want to be seen as good people. They care more about that than they do their philosophies, which is why I say philosophers are useless. Anyone who will just sit around and talk and not do anything based on their philosophy, let alone not support someone else doing something based on their philosophy, hypocrite, coward, and they should kill themselves. If you hold a philosophy that you express daily, and someone goes and does something that is perfectly in line with that philosophy, and you're unwilling to support them, you're a fucking coward and a hypocrite. Period. Kill yourself. You're just in the way. And that doesn't matter what it is. It could be a philosophy I completely disagree with. If you're a pro-lifer and you hear my words and you come murder me and your people don't support you on that, you should disown them because they should support you. You should come kill me. I'm anti-cosmic. I'm anti-everything you stand for. I think everything in existence should cease to exist. Like, so if you think that life is the greatest thing and everyone deserves a chance to live life and blah, 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 come kill me. You absolutely should. And those who agree with you should absolutely support you on that. And if they're cowards and they're hypocrites, and you should distance yourself from them because they distance themselves from you. Facts. Doesn't matter what your philosophy is. If somebody's willing to act on it, especially if you're not willing to act on it, you better fucking support them. Don't be a pussy. All right, anything else, guys? Anything else? Any other questions? Any useful statements? That's all for you. All right, my almighty cookie. I like that name, the almighty cookie. It seems like everybody else is good to go. Persephone, almighty cookie, Gnostic Jedi. I forgot what the other guy's name. Axis Media. I don't think he really likes me, but whatever. Shout out to him. Shout out to him. Julian Moreau. I don't know if you're still here or not, or if you started it over, but shout out to you just for being here. Whoever the 13 people watching are, whatever humans, entities, or bots, shout out to y'all. I'm out of here. Again, the only way to end all things suffering is to end all things that suffer. Let me rephrase that. The only way to end the suffering of all things is to end all things that suffer. Anything else is just a gradation of you choosing that which will suffer, more or less, based upon your will. Period, point blank, plain and simple. I'm out of here.